Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Stretch. You can put it on the board. Yes.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those massive and gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast, radio and television. Also, everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild, Charter, and independent cable affiliates in select markets. Thanks for joining us there, and Hotel TV, where applicable. Plus, also on Facebook, on Chicago Food Favorites, a fun group. Talk about your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes, your favorite foods. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. By the way, one of our partners wants to give you a couple of nights basically on them. How do you like that? A couple of nights on them. And that's either in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you could answer this simple trivia question. Which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. If you know the answer to that simple trivia question, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want you to have a couple of nights in either Las Vegas, Orlando, or Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to that question, if you do, call 888-576-5777. All right, let's get into it in baseball. Boy, it's been pretty interesting what's been happening in the last several, we'll just say the last several days. And as I look at the dog days of summer, people say, well, how can you look at that? Well, look, I can look at what happens in the standings during the dog days of summer. And what I have noticed is that we haven't seen a whole hell of a lot of movement. The teams that are there are pretty much there. And a couple of teams, you think, well, geez, are these teams really contenders or are they pretenders and all that? Let's take a quick look at the standings real quick over the American League East. It is the Toronto Blue Jays with a 5-game lead on the Boston Red Sox. And they're basically playing 500 ball like everybody in that division. But it's the Blue Jays, 5 games ahead of the Red Sox, 5.5 ahead of the Yankees, 12.5 ahead of the Tampa Bay Rays, who have just seemed to start fading, and the Orioles, who are 10 games under and 15.5 back. Doesn't mean that they're out of it, just means that they're just about out of it. And when you look at the division, you say, well, the Orioles are really that bad. I mean, let's face it, they're the only team with a big differential. They've scored 72 less runs than the opponents out of 130 games. So it's not that it's that many. It's just the fact that they've had some really bad games. They've had a lot of injuries. Plus, they lost their closer on top of it. I know. I had him on my fantasy baseball team. Now, are the Blue Jays really the team to beat in the American League East? People say, well, geez, I don't know. You know, the Blue Jays, they have some pieces. Okay. And it's easy to say a team has pieces. But when you look at the team, you say, well, where are they strong and where are they weak? Now, this is the biggest question as you move towards the postseason. You say, well, what about the pitching? I don't know. I am on the fence with Chris Bassett. I'm just not really a big Chris Bassett fan. I mean, look, I don't care whether he's this age or that age. I just don't think Chris Bassett is the Bassett that we believe. Jose Berrios is the guy that we thought he would be. Shane Bieber came back after an injury. He basically had a long time to not play. And now Shane Bieber, they made a trade, being the Toronto Blue Jays. They made a deal for him, and they picked him up. And I really believe that that was the right move. And Bieber came pretty much, well, inexpensively. We'll just kind of leave it like that. Now, you also have Seranthony Dominguez, who is a little bit of a question mark, but Seranthony Dominguez is a good pitcher. He's a good right-handed pitcher. He's a regular size, 6'1", 2 1/4 kind of a guy. And when you look at it, you say, well, is he of the caliber of Kevin Gausman? No, he's not. But out of the starting lineup, their starting pitchers, they are pretty good. And they're good enough to probably get the job done. The question is, can they compete from the pitching mound? I don't know. They do have a good closer in Jeff Hoffman, another guy in Eric Lauer. Lauer is a very good pitcher, starter and reliever, so to say. He can actually do both. And I say that Lauer was another good pickup. But then you look down the roster here and you say, is Max Scherzer the same Max Scherzer that everybody thinks he is? I mean, 41 years of age. Scherzer can still get it over the plate. I think that they're a little bit soft in the pen. And if Toronto does happen to be that team that's going to stick around for a while, I think they're going to have some question marks. And they're not the only teams. But let's take a look at the catchers. They've got a very, very good all-star catcher in Alejandro Kirk. And he is an all-star catcher. He is very good. And Tyler Heineman is another very good catcher behind him. I think they're pretty solid in the catcher position. In the infield, they've got a couple of holes. I think Jimenez is drastically underperforming. Andres Jimenez came over from Cleveland in the offseason last year, and he's not doing what he did, well, in the American League with Cleveland, but he is a solid fielder, and he does steal bases, but apparently not this year. So in the infield, who do we have? We got Vladdy Guerrero. Vladdy is one hell of a player. Free swinger, the guy can do it. Ty France, a big fat question mark. I'm not sold on him. Bo Bichette, I absolutely am sold on him at short. And, geez, I don't know. I've got a big question on their infield. Outfield, Luke Snyder, Springer, Straw, and Varsho. Straw also came over from Cleveland, Miles Straw. A very good player. Dalton Varsho is coming into his own. Not the biggest guy in the world, but the guy can play. And so I'm not so sure that the Toronto Blue Jays are as good as what they're showing. When you look at the record, you say, well, yeah, maybe not. Now, in contrast, when you look at the Boston Red Sox, who sit 5 games behind them, and you say, well, geez, is Boston a better club than Toronto? Why? Because they're chasing them. And they're sitting in one of the wild card spots right now. And let's take a look at the rotation with Bayo, Bernardino, Walker Buehler, who is drastically underperforming. Bayo is the real deal. Aroldis Chapman coming out of the pen. Garrett Crochet as an ace on anyone's team. Giolito has really turned it around. And so here you've got 2 White Sox pitchers that come from the White Sox system, and Garrett Crochet, who is an ace on just about anybody's team, and Lucas Giolito has really found himself. Jordan Hicks, a very good acquisition, part of that deal with San Francisco, which sent Rafi Devers over there. Steven Matz came over from the Cardinals, and then Dustin May came over from the Dodgers. And May has had his woes, and ultimately May is a good strikeout pitcher. And then you've got Whitlock. Whitlock's coming out of the pen now, and Wiesert. And so now you say, well, are these guys good enough? Yes, they are good enough. And it's funny, when you look at the size of all these pitchers, these are big kids. I mean, the smallest pitcher on this staff is Brian Bale, and he is 6'1". Everybody else 6'2", 4, 5, and 6. These are big boys. And so I happen to believe that they're bigger, stronger, They're more consistent, and I think Boston has a better pitching staff than the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, when you talk about catchers, I think catchers, it's almost a flip between Alejandro Kirk and Carlos Narvaez. Narvaez is a very, very good pitcher or a catcher as well. This kid is legit. Connor Warm, a very good backup. The catching, I'm going to give the edge to Boston. Infielders, Bregman, Eaton, Romy Gonzalez, question mark. David Hamilton, question mark. Nathaniel Lowe, solid. Trevor Story, solid. I'm going to give the infield a coin flip. That one's going to go either way. Now, in the outfield, this one is going to go to the Boston Red Sox with Roman Anthony, the rookie sensation, Jarren Duran, and Garcia. Rafaela is a very, very good one, and Yoshida. I think Boston is a better club head-to-head than Toronto. Why does it matter? That's your first place, and that's your second place team. And so when we look at it, we say, well, geez, are these the only teams to talk about? The Yankees are 10 games over 500 and 5.5 back. And I'm not so sure with the Yankees, because the bigger problem with the Yankee strategy is they play station-to-station ball. They don't play small ball. And unfortunately, the Yankees don't bring certain bits to the table. And you know what? When we come back from break, we're going to take a look at the Yankees, and we're going to compare those top three teams. We're basically going to stop right there in the American League East because really Tampa is essentially out of it, and we know that Baltimore's out of it. Back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. More baseball to come in just a few moments. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by your friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. Check them out, folks. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our affiliates, including our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us. Over in Auburn, Alabama, and Montgomery, Alabama, and Columbus, Georgia. Thanks for driving home with us, listening in on WAUD 1230 on the AM dial. That is the home of the Atlanta Braves. Also welcoming everybody up and down the Midwest, out through the heartland, out to the West Coast, those driving between sunny Southern California and Las Vegas, listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. And that is home of the Vegas Golden Knights and the Las Vegas Raiders as well. Plus, welcoming to everybody up and down the West Coast, up to Anchorage, down to CBS Sports 1500 KHKA over in Honolulu. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, hello to all of our friends on cable. Everybody streaming on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, and all the other streaming platforms. And, of course, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right. Talking baseball here. Back with the American League East. It's one of those pretenders and contenders thing. So with the Toronto Blue Jays in first place by 5 over the Red Sox, I think the Red Sox are actually better than the Blue Jays. And what's amazing is that they made the big deal to get rid of their big slugger, Rafi Devers. And I think they're actually better now than what they were before. But let's take a look at the Yankees. And the Yankees made a couple of small moves around deadline time. And you look at their pitching staff. Okay, so they made a couple of deals here and there. And one of them, of course, was with who? The Pittsburgh Pirates. They pick up David Bednar as a closer there, and he's had some good moments, some not so good moments. Blackburn, a very average at best hurler out of the bullpen as well, right-handed pitcher. And Yuri De Los Santos, another righty. The jury's out on him. Camilo Diaz, I really believe that was a terrible Camilo Doval. Doval, in my opinion, what an awful move by the Yankees out of desperation to go get themselves a fireballing closer who really has one pitch, and that's it. And his ERA is extraordinarily high. The best pitcher on their staff, starter or reliever Max Fried, he's the anchor of that team. Luis Hill has come back. Rookie of the Year last year, he has come back, pitching pretty good. Tim Hill, another question for another time. Leiter Jr., another question. Rodon, rock solid. You have two good starters on this team and then a bunch of question marks. And folks, I got to tell you, you're not going to do very well, in my opinion, in the grand scheme of things, if you only have a couple of starters. Think about it. If you've got to go to a 7-game series in the playoffs, well, your two guys aren't going to pitch back to back to back to back to back to back. It's just not going to happen. You need 3 guys in the rotation to do that. So is Luis Hill the guy? I think that's what they're banking on. It certainly isn't Paul Blackburn. And it's not Cam Schlittler. It's certainly not him either, despite his 6'6" size and his big frame. Sorry, he's not the guy. Will Warren, a big question mark. We don't know what we're getting there. Same with Luke Weaver. Devin Williams out of the pen. Not a bad pitcher out of the pen, but boy, there's a lot of holes in that pitching staff. Catcher Austin Wells, a decent catcher, but he's the only one really carried on the roster for the most part that gets playing time. Infielders Caballero, I do like him. He doesn't get the playing time. And it was a good acquisition. He's a good stolen bases guy. Jose can play basically anywhere on the infield. Good utility player. But he's a starting player. The guy already had 30-odd bags stolen before he came to the Yankees before the deadline. I carry him on my fantasy team. I follow this kid. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is very streaky and somebody that you want to rely on, but it's almost like you can't rely on him. He will hit home runs. He does steal some bases. The problem is he's too streaky. Goldie has really turned it around. Goldie is playing a very good first base. Ryan McMahon, a pretty good acquisition for third base to fill the gap for the Yankees. Ben Rice, backup catcher / outfielder. He's a good one, and he'll probably be out in the outfield in the long run. Rosario is not really doing anything to fill any spots. And, of course, you've got Anthony Volpe, who was rock solid. In the outfielder, Bellinger, great glove, big stick. Dominguez, young kid, big stick. Not a very consistent hitter. Trent Grisham hits his home runs, but he's not that consistent of a hitter. And, of course, you have Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton being your designated hitter who just seems to be on the shelf seemingly half the season. I don't think the Yankees are the team. They're missing pieces. The best team in the American League East is the Boston Red Sox. How do you like that, folks? We're going to give it to the Boston Red Sox. Now you say, what about the American League Central? Everyone says, well, geez, it is the Detroit Tigers are way ahead of everybody. The Tigers are 10.5 above the Kansas City Royals. Now, the Royals haven't gone on the big streak yet. And the Royals are playing. Now, they've actually taken second place over. They were sitting behind Cleveland, and now it's the Royals slowly starting to come up. I actually have the Royals, well, I had them at the beginning of the season, representing the American League in the World Series. I think the Royals are good enough. I really do. But as I look at the Royals and what they're capable of, I say, well, are they really overachieving or underachieving? That's the big question that a lot of people have. And so just because we can, let's take a look at the overachieving Detroit Tigers. So the Tigers, yes, they're playing very good ball. And let's face it, they are the only team with a run differential in the positive in the very weak American League Central. At one time it was the best. Now it's probably back to where everybody thought it was. And so, I mean, even the White Sox have won 47 games this year, which is great, but they're playing 362 ball, 22.5 back of the wild card, 30 out of first place. But the American League Central is not that good. A heavy dose of reality, folks. So as we look at the roster for the Tigers, we say, all right, let's. In fact, here's what we're going to do. Let's take a better look possibly at the depth chart. Because to me, the depth chart is probably a little bit more important. You've got arguably the best pitcher in the American League in Tarek Skubal as your ace. Jack Flaherty is a pretty good number 2 or 3. Casey Mize, young kid, not bad. Chris Paddock, no. Charlie Morton at 41 years of age, a very good pitcher. Is their starting rotation better than the Yankees? Yes. Is it better than the Red Sox? Probably by a hair. Is it better than Toronto's? Yes. Yeah, that's how you got to look at this, folks. Now, you also say, is Jackson Jobe another good player? Oh, that's right. He's on the injured list. What about Reese Olson? Oh, that's right. He's on the injured list. So the starting rotation with Skubal, Flaherty, Mize, Paddock, and Morton, is it good enough? Okay, who are your top 3? Skubal, Flaherty, and Morton. Paddock would be your 4th if you get into playoff contention. Skubal's going to get 2, possibly 3 shots in a 7-game series. All right, I can see that. But they got to put Morton in there because of his experience. Flaherty got some experience too. So that's your top 3. That's a pretty good top 3. How about the bullpen? You look at Holton, Vest, Montero, Finnegan. Finnegan came over from Washington. He's decent. Vest is okay. Montero, questionable. Hannafy, questionable. Melton, questionable. Their bullpen is not very good. Boston has a better bullpen than this team. I would even argue the Yankees have a better bullpen. So you think about this. In the grand scheme of things, when it comes to baseball and we think of pitching, we say, well, wait a minute. Is the bullpen that important? Yes. Because the starting rotation, basically these guys are going 5, maybe 6 innings to start a game. It's just the stupidest thing. Well, their pitch count is close to 100 and we better get them out of the game, which is stupid to imagine. But as I look at this, I scratch my head and say, well, wait. Why would we take our starters out? And you look back at the rotation for the Tigers with Skubal, Flaherty, and Morton, just those guys alone. they should be able to go 7+ innings. I don't see why they can't. So the bullpen is questionable at best. What about the catchers? I would say the catchers in Boston are clearly better. The catchers in Toronto are clearly better. First baseman, Torque and Keith, I'm going to give the other teams the first base edge for sure. I'm certainly going to give it to the Yankees. Second base, Torres, Keith, again, it's a utility guy, and McKinstry. Second base, I'm giving to the Yankees, and I'm actually going to give it to the Boston Red Sox as the better second baseman team. Third baseman, you've got, again, utility guys. I don't think that the Tigers have good third basemen in the grand scheme of things. Shortstop, again, you've got Javi Baez and utility guys. Infield is pretty weak. Left field, Riley Green. Riley Green is a good player. Verling's injured, but he's a decent one. Center fielder, Javi Baez is going to fill in over there too. Right field, who do you got? Kerry Carpenter, right? And then your DH, you got a bunch of DHs. Detroit cannot beat the Boston Red Sox. They cannot beat the New York Yankees. Detroit certainly will not be in a head-to-head matchup with those teams. They don't have a chance. So when we come back from break, I'm going to take a look at the Kansas City Royals because I think the Royals have a better shot across the board than the Detroit Tigers. Back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus with more baseball. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it out here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. Don't worry, I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. How do you not love that music? I'm Tom Brenneman.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP-TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, and a host of others. Also, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners over there. One of those, our favorite, is Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. They are the creators of the Italian beef sandwich 117 years ago. They opened up their first restaurant in 1938. They've been doing it ever since. Boy, it is incredible. Folks, if you've never had it, you are missing out. Check them out, alsbeef.com. All right, welcome back to everybody at TV and radio. You know who you are. Talking a little bit of baseball here, and we're going into division by division, and I've already covered the American League East, and it's, to me, as I see it, as I break it down as a former ball player, I look at the Boston Red Sox as being the best team from top to bottom in their division, even after the Rafi Devers deal to the San Francisco Giants. I think they are the best team in the East. Now, it seems like from a pretender to a contender, the Detroit Tigers, just by default, are right now the best team as far as the division goes. They sit 10 games atop the American League Central. However, what I want to take a look at is the second place Kansas City Royals. Yes, they sit back a whole bunch of games, but they haven't gone on their big run yet. Let's take a look at that starting rotation. Now, the starting rotation in Detroit is really good with Skubal and Flaherty. And I'm going to put Charlie Morton as their three. Morton is a good strikeout pitcher. He's got good playoff experience. Flaherty got himself a World Series. Skubal's one hell of a first. I guess he is the ace of any team except the Pittsburgh Pirates, with Paul Skeens is probably the best pitcher in baseball. Let's take a look at the Royals rotation, though, with Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Lorenzen. Michael Lorenzen's a pretty good one. Nolan Cameron, Burgott. Now remember, out for the season, likely, is Chris Bubich and Cole Reagans. Two big losses for the Royals. So do the Royals have enough in the starting rotation? Lugo's a good one. Walker eats innings. Lorenzen is solid. Cameron pitches to contact. He's a very good contact pitcher. He's not a big strikeout pitcher. And then you have Burgott. So can they get your team to the 6th or 7th inning? I hate that 5-inning garbage. Yes, they can. But let's take a look at holding down the fort in the bullpen with Estevez and Urseg and John Schreiber and Zerpa, Lynch and Clark and Long. This is a very suspect bullpen at best. Hunter Harvey is on the 15-day. Bailey Falter is on the 15-day. Steven Cruz on the 15-day. I'm not so sure that bullpen is good enough to get it done in the American League. As far, I'm talking whether it's the East or whether it is the Central, let alone the West. We haven't gotten to the West yet. We're going to do the West in the next segment. Now, the catching is the best in the American League Central for the Kansas City Royals with Salvi Perez and Miley. Very good. How about that infield with Pasquantino, Pasquatch? Of course, Perez, he will also play first base too, and Lofton will too. Second base, India, question mark. Adam Frazier, question mark. Lofton, question mark. Tolbert, pretty good. Michael Garcia, very good. Michael Garcia, also a utility player, will play third. Frazier, also utility. Same thing with India, Lofton. They've got different parts that'll play, different players that'll play different parts. First, second, and third. Short is locked in with arguably the best player in baseball in Bobby Witt Jr. And so in left field, again, you've got some utility guys. They have a question there. John Rave, maybe he's the guy. Center fielder, Isbell, maybe the guy. Tolbert, maybe the guy. It's probably going to be Isbell. In right field, Grichuk, Yastrzemski. I'm not so sure that Yastrzemski was a good acquisition. And so a couple of question marks there. I don't think that either the Detroit Tigers or the Kansas City Royals, although I do like the Royals, they're missing some people. It just seems to me that neither of these teams, as much as I would like the Royals to end up in first place in the American League, win the pennant, I just don't think it's going to happen, folks. I really don't. And let's face it, Cleveland would be the next team to really look at and say, do these guys have a real shot? And Cleveland has been competitive all year. And the biggest problem with Cleveland, and we're going to jump right to it when we think about the pitching, is we're going to think about the bullpen. Cleveland had the really good bullpen, but let's take a real quick look at the starting rotation. Because the starting rotation, well, let's face it, it's those guys that are going to keep this team in the game, hopefully, for their sake. But that starting rotation, it's Bybee, Williams, Ciccone, Allen, and Messick. Nobody jumps off the sheet to say, wow, these guys are good. What's interesting about them is they're all 2 years max apart in age. So these kids are all 25, 26 years of age, maybe 27. One guy 27, and Logan Allen. But they don't jump off the page, and I don't necessarily believe that these guys are the guys. In the bullpen, again, they lose Emmanuel Clase to a gambling, nonsensical situation. Who is the best closer in the game? So what are they left with? Cade Smith, decent. Gaddis, decent. Sobrowski, question. Festa, decent. Enright, decent. Junis, question mark. Allard, forget it. Heron, forget it. So you're left with a few decent guys in the pen. Now, are these guys going to sew it up for the I want to call them the Indians, for the Guardians? And you ask, well, can they get your team or keep your team competitive? 3 or 4 runs. Okay, let's say they can hold the other team to 4 runs. And that's pretty darn good in today's juiced baseball era. What about the hitting? What are these guys doing? Well, let's face it. Catchers, you got Austin Hedges, Bo Naylor. Neither of these guys have really good bats. But what they can do is they're very good catchers. First base, Carlos Santana, question mark. He's not the old Carlos Santana. Kyle Manzardo, up-and-coming player. He's a good one. Second base, Rocchio, Schneemann, Martinez, Arias, forget it. I think Cleveland really messed up by getting rid of Andres Jimenez. Third base, Jose Ramirez, arguably the best third baseman in the American League. Over at short, another big question mark. Maybe it's Arias. I don't know. I'm not sold on their short. Left field, Stephen Kwan, one of the better outfielders in the game, terribly underrated, and I'm surprised he didn't get traded at the deadline. Center fielder, well, Lane Thomas is on the IL. Lane Thomas is a pretty good player they traded for last season, and he is pretty much the guy. Nolan Jones has stepped in for that. Right field, again, question marks. Nolan Jones all over the place, Kafis all over the place, DH, Fry, a utility guy, and Manzardo. These guys aren't good enough to beat anybody in the East. Sorry, folks. So far, it's the American League owned by the Boston Red Sox, as I see it. Now, over in the American League West, it's the Astros 2 games up on Seattle, 6.5 on Texas. Texas is just hanging around, playing 500 ball. Now, they won their last few games. Texas, from a number standpoint, they have a better differential than everybody. Texas is awful on the road. They're 14 games under on the road, while Houston is 2 games over on the road. And against teams that are better than 500, Texas is 17 games under 500, so they can't beat the good teams. While Seattle and Houston both can beat the teams that are good. And so as far as the home records go, let's face it, they're all almost the same. They're within a game or 2. And so are the Astros the best team in the American League West? Why are we doing this? Because we want to see who the hell can beat the Boston Red Sox and who could beat the Toronto Blue Jays and possibly the New York Yankees. That's really what this is about. Let's find out who really is the best team in the American League. Who's going to represent the American League in the playoffs? And these are the questions that anybody would have. All the betting audience, you can go ahead and bet that if you want. Pick your favorite sports book or whatever, whether it's online or in person. And as I look at it, I say, well, geez, the Houston Astros have rebuilt on the fly. Look at their rotation. Framber Valdez, very good. Hunter Brown, question mark. Lance McCullers came back from injury. He's okay. Christian Javier, a very good one. A little bit of a rough start, but he'll be okay. Spencer Arrighetti is stepping up, and he's pitching well. Jason Alexander pitching pretty well. That rotation is about as good as I'd say top to bottom as the New York Yankees, because the Yankees have two really good starters. Last year's Rookie of the Year, so we'll give them 2.5. And then from there, we don't know. But here you have a better average as far as these pitchers go for the Houston Astros. How about the bullpen? Hader is on the shelf right now. He'll be back. He's one of the best closers in the game. Abreu, good. King, good. Okert, good. Souza, on the shelf, not bad. Kimbrel, I don't like it. And Rooney. I would give the bullpen in the American League to the Houston Astros. What about catchers? Yanier Diaz and Caratini. Pretty good duo, not as good as what Boston has or what Toronto has. First base, Christian Walker, really good. Second base, Altuve, maybe. He's out in the outfield. Third base, they've got that one sewed up with Correa. Shortstop, Pena, good. Left field, Altuve. Center field, Dubon, good. And, of course, Cam Smith and Dubon out in the outfield. Got to tell you, folks, the Astros are pretty damn good. They're going to be a tough out. Back here with more American League West. Don't go anywhere.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today. Don't let your retirement accounts get caught off guard by trade and tariff wars. Learn why a Genesis Gold IRA is the number one choice for thousands of Americans across the nation. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. 800-709-4423. That's 800-709-4423.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Again, check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, prior guests, recorded shows. And of course, make sure you check out the store. There is a store tab right across the top. You can pick up your favorite hats, t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and sweatpants, and coats, and travel mugs, and coffee mugs, and pillows, and mouse pads, all kinds of neat stuff. American-made products. TheSportsCircus.com, clever logo on everything. Got to tell you, folks, good stuff. And let's face it, a shameless plug, of course, for the Sports Circus. How you like that? All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. Thanks for joining us. Everybody streaming as well. Now, we're going over what it looks like over in the American League when it comes to real contenders and pretenders. And so now I've already gone through the American League East, and I came up with really the best team in the East is the Boston Red Sox. And I don't really think it's close, to be honest with you. Yes, they sit 5 games back of Toronto, but I don't think that Toronto can pitch with the Red Sox. And I think from top to bottom, there are better players overall on the Red Sox. And I really think the Yankees are actually better than Toronto as well. The problem is the Yankees, they have big question marks with big holes, and they play a station-to-station game. And they really seem to rely on the long ball. Whereas Boston can certainly play the small ball like everybody else. And I have to say that it seems as that Boston is the best team in the East. Over in the Central, just by default, the Detroit Tigers, they do have, I guess they have the better profile between the Royals and the Tigers, of course, and, of course, the Cleveland Guardians. That's what I was trying to say, folks. Listen, folks, this is live. I don't edit anything out. It is what it is. So Cleveland, they can compete, but they're fading. It's just what they do. They don't have enough. Kansas City may have enough. They got to go on a run. The problem is the Royals don't really have the pen. They have starting pitching, and they are also missing a couple of key guys in the rotation. So it is the Detroit Tigers. Can Detroit beat Boston? Probably not. Can they beat the Yankees? Probably not. Can they beat the Blue Jays? Maybe. Maybe. That's the only way they get past the team in the East. Now, over in the West, I was just going over, before we went to break, going over the Houston Astros, and the Astros are pretty solid for a rebuild on the fly. Remember, I left off with their outfield saying that, yes, you've got some good players out there in the outfield because Altuve is playing out in left field now. And in center field, you've got a platoon between Taylor Trammell, and Dubon. Chas McCormick can step in there too with Melton. Over in right field, again, you've got the same cast of characters. And as the DH, of course, it is a whole cast of characters. But they will be getting back Yordan Alvarez, their big slugging first baseman. They'll get him back sometime in September, I'm guessing. That's going to be a big difference, and it'll be a difference maker. Now, the bigger question is, looking at the rotation, can this rotation with Framber Valdez, and Christian Javier, and Spencer Arrighetti, and Lance McCullers, if he's the same McCullers from years ago, maybe he could put the fire out. Problem is he hasn't been very consistent. Can they beat Boston? Yes, I think they can. In a 7-game series, I think they're good enough top to bottom to do it. And can they beat the Yankees? I don't think so. I think the Yankees will beat the Houston Astros. Can they beat Toronto? No. I think that the Houston Astros can beat Boston, though, and that's the one matchup that I would fear if I was Boston, having to play the Houston Astros. So now, being in the same division, of course, we have to look at the second place Seattle Mariners, who is also holding a wild card slot. And Seattle, boy, these guys are no joke. You got to remember, first of all, they made a lot of moves at the deadline. They made key moves before the deadline and at the trade deadline. And Seattle is probably best poised to play anybody in the American League. They just happen to be that squad. When I look at those guys from top to bottom, I say, all right, where are they weak? And think about the idea that you've got a switch-hitting catcher, first of all, before I even get into the rotation. A switch-hitting catcher with 49 home runs. That's right, a switch-hitting catcher. The guy can hit. And he does hit besides home runs. I mean, the guy actually can hit 240, 250. But let's take a look at that rotation, which is arguably the best in baseball top to bottom. And they're healthy except for Logan Evans, but that doesn't matter because you're starting 5. In Brian Wu, man, he is a good one. Logan Gilbert, he is a really good one. Kirby, a very good one. Bryce Miller, a very good one. And Luis Castillo. These guys are rock solid. They could play an 11-game series and just beat the daylights out of a team defensively. In the bullpen, it's Munoz, Brash, Spire, Bazardo. Bazardo is a good high-leverage guy, and so is Brash. And they also have Lau and Saucedo. So their bullpen is certainly adequate. They're not great, but let's face it, their starting rotation, they could literally have guys go front to back in these games. So I'm going to give their rotation clearly the best in the American League. It's probably best in Major League Baseball, no question. How about the catching? Raleigh and Garver, they have 2 switch hitters for catchers. That's incredible. And so they say, well, Mitch Garver's not. And, well, Mitch Garver, maybe I'm confusing him with the former Texas. Yeah, maybe I am. So, okay, so you got 1 switch hitting catcher, Mitch Garver, who's a very good catcher as well. Good backstop, guy can hit. Now, at first base, probably one of the best clutch hitters in the game in Josh Naylor. The guy's good. I mean, he is really good. Second base, Polanco, rock solid. Cole Young, backup. Third base, Eugenio Suarez. Again, he's hit 40-odd home runs so far this year. And Suarez plays a very good third base. Shortstop, J.P. Crawford, rock solid, throws leather. All right, your infield there is awfully tough. You know why you know they're good? It's real simple. If you look at the depth chart behind them, 2 of their guys have nobody behind them because they don't need them. Second base, there's only 1 guy behind. First base, there's 2 behind Naylor, and that's it. That's why these guys are solid. Now you look in left field, Arozarena. He's having a bounce-back year, and Randy Arozarena is a hell of a player. Luke Raley behind him when he needs a day off. Center fielder, J-Rod, an all-world player. Right field, a little bit weak with Robles and Canzone and Raley. All right? But then you go to the DHs, and again, those are those big bats that we mentioned earlier. Seattle is probably the best team from top to bottom in the American League. I don't see anybody beating Seattle. Nobody could pitch with them. Hitting, maybe the Yankees can hit with them. Maybe. Toronto is very streaky, and I don't believe that Detroit Tigers are a good team for postseason play. I think they're more defensively driven, which is great. But they cannot hit with this team. The Royals, they may be able to hit with this team, but nobody can pitch with them. So at this juncture, with just a handful of weeks left in Major League Baseball and regular season, I don't think there's a team in the American League that can beat the Seattle Mariners. I just don't. Despite the fact that they sit behind the Houston Astros, it doesn't necessarily mean that the Astros are going to beat them anyway. Head-to-head, it seems like it was the Seattle Mariners that took it to the Houston Astros. So let's face it, when we look at the standings now in the American League, I'm going to stop in the American League right there. I'm not even going to include the Texas Rangers. And I'm not going to include the Rangers because they're too streaky. Despite the fact that they have the good differential, they cannot win against the good teams. They're way under 500. They're 17 under 500 against the teams above 500. Seattle's above 500. Houston's above 500. And this is almost an exact copy of what's going on in one of the other divisions. So when we look at these guys, we see, well, geez, they're all these teams have won about the same thing at home, but on the road, Texas can't win. They're just not very good. And this is a big problem. And you say, well, geez, they've won their last few games, and they sit 4.5 back of a wild card spot, 6.5 games of the division. So let's take a real quick look at the wild card in the American League. Who could maybe make a push? Who maybe cannot? So in the American League, as I look at it, the wild card spots are held by Boston by 1 game, the Yankees by a half a game, and Seattle. And then the Royals are 3 back. Who could fall out of those top 3? I don't think any one of those are going to, quite honestly, because Seattle has the best pitching. They're going to probably win the division. Houston will probably fall back into the wild card slot. The Yankees have a couple of solid pitchers. They have 2.5 really good pitchers, and they do score a lot of runs. The Yankees they've scored more than anybody else in the American League. And it's only one more run, by the way, than the Boston Red Sox. So it's likely going to be the Yankees, the Astros, and possibly, I don't know. I would argue it could be the Royals, possibly. But out of all the teams in the American League, I think it's the Seattle Mariners because the Mariners can beat all the other teams that I had mentioned. They're good enough top to bottom to do it, and they do it with good defense and good pitching. And oh, by the way, they can certainly knock the cover off the ball. But what they don't do is they don't win big blowouts. They win the close games. And they're 11 games over 500, but they actually win the close games. Boston wins the close games. Houston does win some close games too. Toronto, boy, they're very streaky. And the Detroit Tigers win their games by big numbers. The problem is I don't think the Detroit Tigers have enough to compete. They can't beat the Seattle Mariners. The Tigers, they would have a hard time with the Yankees, a hard time with the Red Sox. So it seems to me that the only wild card team in there, or the one that has the possibility of doing something outside Seattle, is maybe the Kansas City Royals. And I know that may be an unpopular choice, but the Royals can get lucky like everybody else, but they also are a very streaky hitting team. And so can they beat the Red Sox? Maybe. The Red Sox and the Mariners are the two best teams in the American League, and it sure seems reasonable that either one of these teams are going to represent the American League in the World Series. If I had to pick one right now, I'm going to go with pitching and the Seattle Mariners, because these guys can pitch the ball like no other team, never mind the American League, I think, in Major League Baseball. So the bigger question, and we're going to maybe do this in the next show, we're going to talk about the National League. Who would Seattle play in the World Series? That's going to do it for the Sports Circus today. Hope you enjoyed the show. It's a lot of baseball analysis. And hey, listen, folks, we're at that time of year. We have to talk about it. So for the next 23 hours, I want you to think about it. Maybe we're going to go into the National League in the next show. And we'll see you right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.